Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for honoring our invite to this press conference with Blue Pool's company CEO, Edgar Rathbone. Edgar will read out a statement, and then we will open the floor to questions. And thanks, Ed.
Morning, everybody. Normally I wouldn't read out a statement, but I think it's important that we get all the facts sort of on the timeline and everything, so we don't miss something. So, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media here and those joining us online, to everyone watching or listening to this across South Africa and the rest of the international community that has shown tremendous interest and support in this case. Good morning. Thank you for honouring this press conference this morning. For those of you who are first-time visitors, welcome to Loftus. It was 22 days ago now that we began to live in a world where our reality was something never thought nor could ever anticipate being our reality. What started as a simple non-appearance for training on Monday, 14 November, quickly became a serious case of a missing player. 4 days later, on the 17th of November, having failed to reach Cebu directly through his known channels and numerous visits to his known address here in Pretoria, we mandated our senior team manager to rope in the police. We encountered a few challenges in this regard because we are not immediate family, but we insisted in continuing our search for Cebu because we are family, and frankly consider all those who form part of the Vodacom Bulls as family. Whilst everyone in this company who had contact with Cebu tried to reach him, whether it be via text or phone calls, without success, we also reached out to our commercial partners to help us broaden the search as we grew in our worry. We know the realities of our beautiful country, and that elevated our concerns for the well-being of Cebu. We are confident that we could locate Cebu without causing public panic, but this did not pan out that way. With the story breaking through the media over the weekend, that meant we needed to fast-track how we deploy the resources we have, but still strategic enough to give us the best chance of finding Cebu. Perhaps our search for Cebu picked up defining momentum when SSG called, offering their tactical support, which offers state-of-the-art intelligence services that led us to, one, verifying the authenticity of some of the tips we were receiving, and two, whilst also helping us identify new possible leads. On Monday, 5 December, we, alongside SSG, travelled to a location we were confident we could find Cebu. Not knowing who or what waited for us, but willing to take the chance if it meant we could find him. Once we reached the town, we stopped at the local police station to solicit their help, but we were unsuccessful in this regard, with the police citing that we are not family and thus we cannot intervene. A decision they took after about 2 hours of hard negotiations. Again, SSG stepped up their support to us as the Vodacom Bulls and gave us cover that we needed to go knocking at doors we thought where Cebu might be. At approximately 1:30, we arrived at the location and began to knock, call and pray that we could at least assist Cebu. Fortuitously, as we were considering moving to another address, his father-in-law pulled up to the gate, assuming that he was coming for a visit, and he confirmed that Cebu was indeed inside the home, having last seen him on Wednesday, 30 November 2022. That spurred us on as we waited with hope that could not be dampened by the rain. At approximately 2 minutes after 2, Cebu stepped out the gate and opened it without hesitation or resistance. We shared brief pleasantries because of the pouring rain, and he invited me inside, where we spent about 40 minutes speaking. Specific contents of our conversation I cannot share. I'm sure we can all understand, but in summary, it was important for me to establish that he was okay, safe and unharmed. Pursuant to that, it was important to try and understand where he is at and what has led to his decision and how we as a company and rugby family can support him. We were thrilled to find Cebu and incredibly relieved to see that he was alive. Equally, we were saddened to see him in the state that he was in, a gentle soul who was somewhat seen in a light dim owing to his current well-being. I'm ever confident that we are in a good position to provide Cebu with the support he needs, and that we should acknowledge his incredible courage to even say to us that he is not okay. Because he does not owe us that, and yet he did. A valuable lesson for me and those around Cebu, and one day this story will This story will champion and empower other men to have the courage and come out and say that I'm not okay. We would like to thank South Africans who joined us in prayer and those who asked how they could help. Thank you for those who used the media stables to help us spread the message. Now that Sabu is found and is going to be getting support that he needs, we ask that we as the community around him please offer him the space and privacy he needs to work on rebuilding his confidence and return to the Sabu we all know and love. Let us be kind and desist from making untoward remarks to what may only be harmful towards him and others in a similar position that have not found the courage to seek help. Finally, to all of you who are watching this, or who will have the opportunity to hear this, please be encouraged that it is okay not to feel okay. Seeking out help does not make you weak or less valuable. It is my belief that it makes you stronger, and it shows that you are brave enough to seek support, so please seek support. We as the Vodacom Bulls will now be exploring, alongside our supportive partners, support mechanisms that we can introduce in our rugby community, and this is hopefully the start of something great for South African rugby, because we are lucky today, but tomorrow intervention might be too late, and it's not something we want to be seen to become a reality. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ed. We will start with questions on the floor for about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the appetite, and then we will come to everybody that is online, offer you the same courtesy, 10 to about 15 minutes. Perhaps by a show of hand, we could see who will take the first round. Brendan, you'll go first. Front row.
Edgar, just first of all, where is Spoon? Is he still with his parents?
Correct.
And what is the timeline going forward? I know it's a difficult thing to...
Yeah.
But in terms of the support, when do you expect him to be back at Loftus?
Look, Brendan, I think at this time it's difficult to put a timeline on it. I think we need to give him his space to get back to full health. We are arranging support and for the time that he's ready to get that support. And we are there to give him his space. And as I said to him yesterday as well, our goal is to get him back on a rugby field and feeling like a champion again. And even if that means that's not at the Vodacom Bulls and he needs to have a new start, then that's fine. But it's our job to get him ready.
Just in your statement, you mentioned as well that you are hoping to find him alive. Obviously, the tip-offs you got has gotten the information you got. I don't know if you can speak a bit about that. What made you feel that it might be a different course? I mean, was there something that came through in that information you received?
Brendan, I think it's not. The tip-offs actually made us feel a bit more sort of confident that we would find him alive. I think the realities of living in South Africa, of what we've seen in the past with other rugby players, obviously you have that concern, and that was again why it was an unbelievable relief to see him yesterday alive and well.
Cool. We'll go to the back and then we'll come to you.
Otto Meyer from Pretoria, I think.
Yes.
You spoke about support mechanisms that you want to introduce in the rugby community. Is there a concern that maybe the players are maybe playing too much rugby and that there's not enough focus on their mental well-being?
Yeah, look, I mean, there is fantastic support structures in place through my players and even us here with our own team psychologists and that. But I think this is just a wake-up call for everybody in sports again. I mean, in a space of I think about 12 months, we've now seen Michael Hooper withdrawing. We've seen Ben Stokes withdrawing. So I think it's a reality of professional sport. These are not machines; they're human beings. And there's a tremendous pressure from a day-to-day basis on them to perform. So I think it's just a wake-up call for all sports.
Follow-up question? You good? Cool. Ramashad.
Just to put on the record, there are no discussions by the Blue Bulls at the moment to terminate his contract, but instead you are going to give him all the necessary support to get back on the field and play for the Bulls.
Correct.
There's been a lot of questions. Sorry, you explained the timelines. There's been a lot of questions directed, at the Bulls in terms of how the situation was handled, and the time it took
Yeah.
to come forward with this missing information. Are you comfortable with the way you handled it? You know, could it have been better handled?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously we're not we're not trained for scenarios like this, and yes, I'm sure we made mistakes along the way, but I think what we need to keep in mind through all of this is there's a player's reputation that needed to be managed as well, and then obviously his safety is also a concern. So I mean, it's finding the balance between those two elements. I mean, I think the steps that we took in terms of visiting all these known residences, contacting family members, I mean, myself phoning him basically every day on all the known numbers that we've got, in the end led us to the police, unfortunately, where, yeah, I mean, help wasn't really forthcoming. And then, like I said, luckily for us, our partners SSG stepped in and really gave this thing momentum, and the media, I mean, you guys as well, and that 48 hours later we were able to find them.
So I was just going to say on a follow-up on Scott's question, and also just to place it on the record, because as you know, there have been stories about Spoo in the past, disciplinary problems, why he left the Sharks, things like that. There was nothing in terms of that led to that the situation.
No.
Percy?
Sorry, Mr. Zulu, I want to ask a similar question. And can I ask you this question? You mentioned the fact that you guys are now going to give him support now. Why only now for a big union? Sorry, I need to be fair towards
Sure.
the CEO and as the Blues Rugby Union. But as rugby, why only now? Why did it need this situation for a rugby union, a prominent big rugby union like rugby, to now suddenly decide we need to give a player support? Don't you guys in general give players support, mental support?
So that's the point I made earlier, Percy. I mean, through my players, there's a massive support structure, and they actually do mental health screening on players on a regular basis. I think we're one of the few unions that actually employ a full-time psychologist. I mean, again, I'm not saying we haven't done enough. I think it's just sort of looking at yourself again and saying, what more could you have done? And how can we ramp that up? So there is support structures in place, but maybe we could even make that better.
Can I then ask you this as a follow-up question? Is the case of a worker, employer who works here, in this case a player, having to come to the union or to the psychologist, or is the case of where a coach or possible manager can see, but hang on, we're seeing there's possible signs of problems with this employee of us, we need to step in and help this player? Is it from both sides, or do you guys have a responsibility to look at your clients?
Yeah, look, Percy, I think it probably lies on both sides. You know, it's like in any relationship, whether it's with you, with your family, or something. There's always a responsibility from both parties to basically either pick it up or someone to say, "Listen, I'm struggling with something." Us as men are very good at it to hide stuff away and sort of make as if everything is fine. And I think that's obviously a flaw of us, and that's why I commend Sabu for saying, "Listen, I'm not okay."
And just on sorry.
We'll go Spoo and then we'll come to you, Brendan. Cool, thanks.
What are the thoughts of the director of rugby, Jake White? You know, he's got an elite Springbok
Yep.
who, you know, struggled a bit to make team meetings and stuff like that, and before disappearing off the radar completely. I mean, he's still got a team that must perform. I understand that Spoo's well-being
Yeah.
is the highest priority. What is his view now that he's been located and found?
Look, I mean, again, I think at this stage, our concern is not for Sabu, the rugby player, it's for Sabu, the person. Jake obviously has a job to do and prepare a team this weekend. To say that he's missed team meetings in the plural is exaggerating. He missed one meeting and was disciplined for that. But obviously, Jake's known Sabu for a long time as well. And at this stage, our concern is for Sabu, the person, and not the rugby player.
Brendan?
Just on that, I mean, you said obviously Jake's got a team to prepare for this weekend. It's probably one of your biggest games of the year coming up. How's this whole thing affected the rest of the squad, and are there other things you're putting in place if anybody else has been affected in general? I suppose?
Yeah, look, I mean, again, if it's one of your teammates, it's like a family member that well, first disappeared but luckily now found, you know, and concerns for his mental well-being. So obviously, I mean, we're all human beings that has an effect on you, and again, that's why Dr. Erin Gericke and the team will have to play a big part in the mental preparation and making sure that our team is in a good mental space.
Cool. Last one on the floor, then we go online. Okay, cool. Follow up.
No, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Just sorry, and and I know this is a difficult one for you, but as you say, and I think it's a reality of this country, that you didn't get the support that you needed from the SAPS, and obviously not everyone's as lucky as to have the resources that you guys have in SSG. That obviously is disappointing, but that's a huge problem, I suppose, in a bigger context in this country. Yeah,
I mean, and obviously they're following process in the sense that missing persons must be declared missing by family members, and that's possibly a flaw in our system. But it was frustrating, to say the least. But again, it worked out in the end.
Cool. We'll come to our colleagues online. Simon, we'll start with you, and then after you, Craig, you can take the floor. Thanks, Simon.
Thanks, guys. Good morning. There is a hell of a lot of emotion in this, and I do agree, and I have sympathy for that. But there's also another way that you have to look at this. This is, and you've touched on that, especially as far as the contract is concerned. And that brings me to the question: is there a discussion or a period of discussion or a few steps of discussion regarding his responsibility towards the employer's responsibility that you're going to have with him, akin to something like performance appraisal, like a sort of a discipline type of a discussion with him, to get him acquainted to the fact that there is, besides the emotion, a factual situation and a factual relationship as well with the employer?
Yeah, Simon, I mean, you're 100% correct. I mean, he's an employee of the company, and being absent without leave for 3 weeks does have consequences. But again, I think at this stage we're really missing the point if our concern is whether he's going to have a contract at the Bulls or not. We've got a player that's struggling with mental health issues and going through a really rough patch. And that should be our concern: is how do we get him on his feet again, and he can stand up and become the superstar rugby player that we all know he is.
Thanks, Simon. Craig?
Hi, thanks very much, Edgar. I guess touching on what's been asked already a little bit, but I mean, the fact that he was with his father, there were no sort of questions as to why someone from the family did not at least let you know that he was safe. So there's that. And secondly, I think in terms of mental health, I suppose it's a bit like any other type of issue. The person's got to want to change, got to want to seek help. Have you got that sense that Spoo does want to seek help at this point?
Yeah, Craig. I mean, first, just on your first point, I mean, Sabu does have a complicated family environment, which I really don't want to comment on any further. I think that's his privilege. But yeah, you're 100% correct. I mean, any mental health issue or any problem that you have, you want to be helped. I got the sense that Sabu really wants to get back on his feet and be helped. At this stage, his dad is assisting him, and that's his safe space at this stage, to be with his dad and just be a son to a father for a bit, and not be Sabu Nkosi, the rugby player. And I think that's playing a healing element in his life. So we must respect that. But obviously, going forward, professional help will be needed as well.
Thanks.
Could I ask a follow-up?
Yes,
Sure.
you can, Craig.
Sorry, are there any other concerns for you in the background besides mental health, that substance abuse or anything else? Have you had any indication of that?
Look, Craig, I think to go and speculate about that will be quite. I wouldn't like to do that. I mean, I looked a man in the eyes yesterday that I could see was hurting, and that's my reality.
Thanks.
Thanks, Craig. Ashfaq?
Thanks, Lunga. Edgar, just in terms of, Sabu arriving at the Bulls, he had a press conference last year. We spoke so positively about joining the Bulls and working with Jake again. But of course, he had injury issues at the Sharks as well. And coming to the Bulls, it also took him a while to get back onto the pitch. And he played the one game, made the Springbok squad, and was injured again against the Sharks. So has that also been sort of looked into in terms of his fitness and injury situation, which may have contributed to his mental challenges now?
Yeah, Ashfaq. I mean, as any sportsman, you go through highs and lows. I mean, Sabu made it very clear yesterday again that he was unbelievably excited to join the Vodacom Bulls, as this was his fresh start. As you say, I mean, he was injured when he got here, and we got him back onto the pitch, and he actually played very good rugby. The last injury was a rib injury, which I don't think you can condition a player for. And there must have been disappointment from his side to not be on that flight that night to go and join the Springboks because of this injury. That all plays a part. Again, we are not robots, we're not machines. We're human beings with emotions, and that goes up and down.
Follow up, Ashfaq?
I'm okay, thanks, Lunga.
Cool, thanks, Ashfaq. Ken? Remember to unmute, Ken.
Thanks, Lunga. How's it? Yes, sorry. I've unmuted.
Yeah, we can hear you, Ken.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Cool, yeah, thanks. Hi, Nicole.
I can.
Was this episode, this unfortunate episode, triggered by just the pressures of rugby and obviously dealing with injuries and disappointment of not going on the Bok tour, things that played a part in this episode?
Yeah, you broke up a bit, Ken, there, but I mean, yeah, I get the question is, was this just an unfortunate episode of sort of cumulative circumstances? And I think that's exactly what we're dealing with. Again, I think we need to understand that, I mean, Sabu probably came onto the scene at a very young age, at 20, left his parents' house at a very young, even a younger age, to pursue a dream of going to JP and being a professional sportsman. That does have its pressure. He's a World Cup winner at the age of 22, 23. Yeah, so I think in the end, it just adds up.
Follow-up question, Ken? In the cool. Thanks, Ken. Lennox?
Hi, Linda. Hi, Edgar. Just a quick question on my side. I think, like you mentioned earlier, that you do have a resident psychologist within the Bulls. But I'm just wondering, in terms of what can the rugby community do to ensure that we get rid of the stigma associated with sticking out, so we can sort of catch people, give people help earlier before it's too late. Because I think that, like you mentioned, not all franchises have that support, but how could you create a safe environment for our superstar?
Yeah, thanks, Lennox. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, you've got the my players element of that to it as well. I mean, I had a long conversation with Eugene Henning, their CEO, last night around exactly that. How do we how do we ramp up what we're doing currently? Like I said, they do screenings with players. There is helplines for players. There's all sorts of things in place. But it's probably just re-looking all of that again